and citizen engagement at Fairtrade Canada. Loic joined Fairtrade Canada in February 2022 as the Senior Manager of Advocacy and Citizen Engagement. In his role, he is responsible for managing the Fairtrade programs and engaging with civil society organizations, developing and implementing their political advocacy strategy in line with Fairtrade international priorities, such as legislation on climate justice and the recognition of a living wage as a human right. Thank you, Loic, for being here. Thanks again.
Thank you, Perla. Thank you, everyone, for having me today. Yeah, I joined Fairtrade Canada in last February, but I'm not new to the Fairtrade movement. I've been working in the Fairtrade movement for 6 years now, but still learning every day. And I hope to share with you some of my knowledge today. So we are going to be together for about an hour, but my presentation will last about 45 minutes. And yeah, I will take your questions at the end. But if there's something unclear or if I'm talking too fast or anything, please let me know in the chat so that I can take that into account in my presentation. So what you see behind me first in my virtual screen is a forest where is grown coffee in Colombia. So sometimes you can see coffee grown in coffee plantations, large fields of all the same trees. But what we want to support with the Fairtrade movement is also agroecology. So for example, planting coffee trees in forest, under forest cover. And what you see on the screen that I share are banana trees, even if bananas don't grow on trees, but on something kind of a plant or an herb. And this is the leaves of the banana tree. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about what is Fairtrade first, and about the history of Fairtrade. And I'm sharing with you what's the internationally known and agreed definition of Fairtrade. And when I'm going to talk about Fairtrade, 2 words, it's about the Fairtrade movement in general and the idea of Fairtrade. And there is also the Fairtrade 1 word, which is the mark you're seeing on the top right corner of the slide, which is the Fairtrade logo, the Fairtrade certification, and this is the organization I am working for. But Fairtrade movement is made of various organizations. So of course, we're talking about trading partnerships. It's not charity, it's not sustainable development or international cooperation. This is really about building trade relationships, and those relationships are based on an equal partnership where the buyers and the sellers are dealing and negotiating on the same level. So it's based on dialogue, transparency, and respect within those parties. And the main goal is to get more equity, more justice in international trade, because international trade has been built on the exploitation of the southern countries and unfair, unequal trading practices. This is the result of centuries of colonialism and imperialism from the northern countries. So Fairtrade is contributing to sustainable development. So this is not sustainable development, but this is contributing to the sustainable development goals in general. And some goals are particularly impacted by what Fairtrade is trying to do. And the idea is to work in favor of the rights of the most marginalized, the poorer people who work in mostly in the agricultural sector in the global south. And Fairtrade is also a movement built of Fairtrade, made of Fairtrade organizations. It is supported by consumers, by citizens who are actively engaged, of course, in supporting producers, but also in changing the way Fairtrade, the international trade is done, and changing the rules. So it's as much about buying Fairtrade products and giving commercial and economic opportunities to producers, but also advocating for fairer trade in general through political advocacy or through campaigns to talk to businesses, etc. So this is really a more it's a broader movement than just buying fair trade products. And this definition has been agreed in a document that's called the International Fair Trade Charter in 2018, but the definition was already agreed by several organizations, including Fair Trade International and the World Fair Trade Organization more than 20 years ago. So a brief history of what is fair trade, and this is fair trade towards, so the movement in general. And I want to pick a few examples of what happened in the past 50 years. In North America, we tend to choose one like funding myth or funding story for the fair trade movement. And this is the story of Edna Ruth Byler. She was a member of the Mennonite community in the United States, which is a religious community. And she made a trip to Puerto Rico in the year 1940s, and she saw the poverty there. And she believed that she could make an impact, make a difference for those people by providing economic opportunities to them. So when she came back from this trip, she bought from them embroidery from women in Puerto Rico, and started to sell them out of the trunk of her car outside of the church. So that's the beginning of this idea of selling products made by marginalized people or women who were living in poverty, and helping them get out of poverty by selling the product of their work. So it's not charity, it's really trying to develop trading partnership to provide them with economic opportunities. And so this is the beginning of this movement. But a few years later, the Mennonite Central Committee accepted the project that Edna Ruth Byler was proposing to have kind of alternative trade stores along like close to the church. So sometimes the church was lending or a room or organizing the sales on the parking lot or stuff like that. And this was the beginning of the 10,000 villages movement, which has now more than 100 stores across North America. So this is one example of the fair trade, movement began in our continent. But at about the same period, the same era, in Europe, similar movement appeared as well. So, for example, in Oxford in the 1940s as well, the Oxfam Committee for Famine Relief, the Oxford Committee for Famine Relief was created, and this was first to support people suffering from World War II and from famine in southern Europe, and especially in Greece. So people from Britain sending help to those people. And after the war ended, and they wanted to keep supporting communities in poorer countries, and they decided to create what was going to be the movement of the world shops in Europe, which is similar to the 10,000 villages shops in North America. So by selling products from marginalized communities in southern countries and providing them for economic opportunities in Europe. So this is like civil society movements and trying to build alternative trade ways or channels to sell products from impoverished communities. But at the same time, at a political level, in the global United Nations system, the non-aligned countries in part of the United Nations Convention on Trade and Development, try to organize themselves and push a common message, a common demands to the United Nations, that they didn't want to be to ask charity or to ask international traditional development aid or humanitarian aid. They really wanted to make trade fairer so that they could develop through their own work and resources. And then the message that was summed up in the slogan at that time, which was trade. We want trade, not aid. We don't want Europe and North America to send us money just to help us develop. We want a fair trading partnership with those countries so that we can develop on our own. So this movement has been continuing since then. Now, a few words about the beginning of the fair trade one-word system. After the appearance of large numbers of new fair or alternative trade initiatives across Europe, especially in the years 1980s, it appeared that there was a need for some, let's say, harmonization or clarification of what fair trade was and what was not really fair trade, or just greenwashing or fair washing. And that there was a need for a guarantee for the consumer that when a business or a company said that the products they were selling was fair trade, it was really fair trade, and there was really like some criteria that were respected. So the two guys you see on the picture are Franz van der Hoff, the one on the left, and he was a worker priest in Mexico, and the one on the right is Nico Rosen, and he was a Dutch economist, so from the Netherlands. And with the Mexican coffee cooperative called UCIRI, UCIRI, and a Dutch NGO called Solidaridad, they try to build some criteria and a certification process so that you could know that the coffee sold in the Netherlands or in Europe under the fair trade name was really fair trade and was respecting some basic criteria. And that was the beginning of the certification. And at that time, the name of the certification was Max Havelaar, and the name was after a novel, a Dutch novel that was published in the 1860s, so more than 100 years before, about the exploitation of peasants in the island of Java in Indonesia. And Max Havelaar was like an explorer who went there in this novel. So the certification initially applies to coffee, and the hope was to bring the fair trade coffee from alternative trade shops, workshops, to the mainstream consumer through restaurants and grocery stores. The first year the Max Havelaar label was launched in the Netherlands, it reached 3% of the market share in this country. So it was a success from the beginning. And now we are going to jump in time to today. So how is the fair trade system working today? So more than 30 years later. So what you see in the picture is the Fairtrade International General Assembly. And you can see in the room, there are half the people are producers from producer networks in the southern, the global south, and half of the people are from the national fair trade organizations in the northern countries, organizations like Fairtrade Canada or Max Havelaar France or the Fairtrade Foundation in the UK. So the system is really on half and half by producers and NGOs in the northern countries. Today, it gathers more than 2 million farmers and workers in fair trade producer organizations in southern countries. And these are more than 1,800 organizations that are certified under the fair trade standards. So that can be cooperatives or associations, so different type of organizations. And as I will explain a little bit later, but this generated at the end of 2020, so in the sole year of 2020, more than $280 million in Fairtrade premium. And this is only the premium, so an amount that is paid on top of the price. And Fairtrade is the only certification system that has a minimum price for all commodities. So this is on top of the minimum price that is guaranteed to farmers. So how does the Fairtrade system work? So we have Fairtrade International. The head office is in Bonn in Germany. There are offices in different countries. And this organization is owned at 50% by Fairtrade Network Producers, Fairtrade Producers Network, sorry, and national Fairtrade organizations in consumer countries. And so they have half of the votes at the General Assembly, and all the standards and the policies that are put in place by Fairtrade International are decided with the producers. They are not decided by some people in an office in Germany, but they were really decided together with the producer networks. So the international movement sets the standards and owns the Fairtrade mark, so the Fairtrade logo, and the producer networks. So there are 3 networks, one for each like global regional area or continent. One is for Africa and the Middle East. It's called Fairtrade Africa. One is for the Asia and Pacific, so it's called NAP, so it's the network of Asian and Pacific producers. And the last one is called the CLAC, so it's the Coordinadora Latinoamérica del Caribe de Comercio Justo, so it's the South American, Latin American network of producers. So Fairtrade International was built, is a federation. So it was founded in 1997 after different nonprofits from various countries decided to get together. So at that time, for example, in Canada, there was Transfer Canada, same in Germany, there was an organization in the UK and different countries, and they decided to get together and to have a common standard because before that, Fairtrade Producers Cooperative, let's say in Mexico, would have to fill the paperwork and get certified by all of these organizations independently if they wanted to sell the products in all those countries. So they decided to get together and have common standards and one Fairtrade mark logo that would be recognized internationally. So as I said, we have 3 producer networks, and these networks are I would say 2 main roles. One is to represent the producers in the system. So the producers are organized in various organizations. They are organized at the local level in cooperatives or associations, but there are also like bigger national organizations. There are also networks by products. For example, there is a network for honey producers, or a network for coffee producers, or a network for banana producers. And so they are organized at different levels, but in the end, they are represented at the International General Assembly. And also the networks at a regional level are giving support to producers through training, through different initiatives that they can do to support the producers to develop their production and access to market. And talking about access to market, this is really the role of the national Fairtrade organizations in the northern countries. So there are organizations like Fairtrade Canada in 25 different countries in the global north, let's say, including Australia and New Zealand, which are not in the north, but still part of those organizations. And our role is really to increase economic opportunities for Fairtrade producers in our consumer countries, and also to educate people and advocate for fair trade practices in our institutions. So let's talk about the Fairtrade certification process a little bit more. And this is where you're going to see the role of each part of the system across the chain. So at the top of the chain, there are the producers. They are the first who need to be certified. So generally, the certification is awarded to a cooperative or an association of producers. But sometimes it can also be a plantation that hires workers. So not small farmers, but instead a larger farm, but which hire workers. This can be the case for some products like tea or flowers, which are not really produced by small farmers, but instead larger plantations. So in this case, we have what is called the hired labor standard, which makes sure that the workers have decent working conditions and their rights are respected. But in most of the cases, this is smallholder farmers who have farms that are less than 2 hectares and who produce various commodities. So they have to respect some standards, and the standards cover a large scale of topics from social, labor, or environmental standards and criteria. And then the certification is done at the level of the regional market, so where the cooperative is selling its products to exporters, and then the exporters and importers have also paperwork to fulfill to make sure that there is some traceability of the products along the supply chain, and that the prices that are paid to each level are respecting the Fairtrade minimum price. And then the manufacturers who transform the product, sometimes in the southern country, but most often in the global north, have also to respect some standards and to get the to get certified to have the right to use the Fairtrade logo. And then there are the retailers and the consumers. So when you see on the screen the small black button here, this means that there is an independent certifier, which is called FlowCert for the Fairtrade Labeling Organization certifier, which is an independent certifier and audit organization who make sure that the Fairtrade standard that has been decided by Fairtrade International is respected by this actor in the supply chain. So the audits are at the 3 levels: producers, exporters, importers, and manufacturers. That's where you can have an auditor, an independent auditor, coming to check on in your facility if the products and the paperwork and everything has been done properly to make sure you respect the standards. And that can be like unannounced inspections in the farm or in the warehouse, or at different aspects of the supply chain. So yeah, this is basically the chain. Of course, it can be different for different commodities, because it's not the same when you grow and export bananas or coffee or chocolate or sugar. There can be more intermediaries in the chain, but this is the generic model. And the reason for the fair trade movement is to make an impact and to improve the lives of the farmers and the workers at the beginning of the chain. So the gamble, or the idea that the founders of the fair trade movement had, that by providing economic opportunities to farmers and workers, and by guaranteeing to consumers that the product they're buying is respecting some standards and criteria, and is providing decent working conditions and granted pricing and different aspects of the certification to the farmers, has an impact and really helps people get out of poverty and improve their lives. So I'm gonna share with you a short video that will explain that in a shorter way than I would, and with a lot of information about how Fairtrade support the implementation and the achievement, if possible, of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. So here is the short video, and I will talk afterwards.
Virtually all the targets under the Sustainable Development Goals relate to food and farming. But there are 8 SDGs where Fairtrade really makes a difference. Eliminating poverty is at the heart of Fairtrade. The best way out of poverty is to pay farmers a decent income for their crops and pay workers a fair wage. Fairtrade's unique minimum price acts as a safety net when prices crash. Small-scale farmers can help feed the world, but only if they get a decent income so they can invest in their farms and their futures. Fairtrade standards prohibit discrimination and sexual harassment or violence. Our gender leadership schools and seed funding empower women to become entrepreneurs and managers. Millions of farmers and labourers work long hours in hazardous conditions. Child and forced labour are common. Fairtrade standards prohibit these abuses and promote health and safety and workers' rights. Fairtrade producers and businesses comply with tough social, economic and environmental standards throughout the supply chain. Fairtrade helps increase resilience to climate risks through tree planting, improved irrigation and waste management, diversifying crops and pursuing new sources of income. We are the only global standard 50% owned and run by farmers and workers, who decide for themselves how to invest the extra money they get from Fairtrade sales. Fairtrade brings together farmers, workers, consumers, trade unions, businesses, governments and campaigners to deliver real impact and sustainable economic growth. Just like the SDGs, Fairtrade aims to leave no one behind. But we can't end poverty or eliminate hunger by ourselves. Join us to build a better, more sustainable future for all.
So we're going to take the 3 main pillars of sustainability, which are the economic, social, and environmental pillar, and try to deconstruct that a little bit and see how Fairtrade works with those pillars. And the first one, of course, is the economic pillar, because as I said earlier, the main and first goal of Fairtrade was to provide economic opportunities to farmers in the Global South. And this is done through long-term partnerships, but also supporting farmers to improve the way they are producing, either by training them for organic farming, for example, or helping them organize into cooperatives to improve their negotiating position, because if they work together, they have a better position to negotiate with buyers and exporters in the supply chain. But the economic pillar is also built upon the concept of a fair trade minimum price. And I will share with you now a small graphic which explains how the fair trade minimum price works. So the line you see in black is here in this example, the market price for cocoa in the international market. So this price is fixed for like the whole world market in the stock market in Chicago. And so this is how the price has evolved in the past 30 years. In green, you see what's the fair trade minimum price. So this is the price that is guaranteed to farmers in the fair trade standard. So if the market price is under this green line, the price guaranteed to the farmers is the price in green. But if, of course, the market price rise above the green line, then they have to be paid the market price. And as you see, the market price for cocoa has increased in time, and so has the Fairtrade minimum price. And you see that there is a small gap here where the price of cocoa was always above the minimum price. And there have been negotiations in the Fairtrade system to increase the price. And this has been done in 2 occasions. So the first time in 2011, and the second time 3 years ago. So yeah, so this is the minimum price that's guaranteed to Fairtrade farmers. But on top of that, they get Fairtrade premium, and this is the line in blue. So for every kilogram or ton or whatever the quantity you measure for the product, there is a price that has to be paid on top of the price for the commodity. And this money doesn't go directly to the farmer, but instead to the cooperative, and they decide together how they want to invest this money. In general, like the experience has shown that but half of that money goes into investment in infrastructure and into improving the capacity of the cooperative in general. So buying or building infrastructures, investing in, I don't know, irrigation or warehouses or trucks or different aspects of the production. And half of the money goes to community projects for building schools or providing healthcare or providing drinkable waters to houses. So different projects like that. So more social projects. Also, there is an initiative to switch to organic farming. So both the premium and the support from the producer networks can be invested in training and the work to get the organic certification. When you decide to switch to organic farming, there is a 3-year period when you have to farm like organically, but you can't have the certification. You need 3 years of transition between the moment you stop using pesticides and GMOs and stuff like that, and the moment you can get the certification. So the Fairtrade system is helping producers go through this transition phase and to get the certification for organic products. So when they get the organic certification, they get also the organic differential, which is another premium on top of the price. So even if the market price is above the Fairtrade minimum price, they still get more money than what the market would have provided. So this is the example for cocoa, but the same applies for coffee, bananas, and other products. Now, the environmental pillar. So as I said, Fairtrade tries to incentivize and support farmers to switch to organic farming, which is the best way to respect the environment. But even if they're not organic certified, there are criteria in the standards, in the Fairtrade standards, that make sure that there is some protection for the environment, and also protection from various hazards for the workers and the farmers themselves. So, for example, the standards ban the use of dangerous pesticides and any dangerous chemical products that could be used in farming. And also GMOs are restricted. So you can't use any GMO seeds if you want to be Fairtrade certified. So those are like basic criteria for environmental criteria in the Fairtrade standards. But we encourage in general eco-friendly farming practices. So there are criteria for the protection of water resources, land management, waste management. You have to keep to prevent deforestation, protect biodiversity. So there are various criteria that happen in the different standards for the different products that are sold under Fairtrade. Yeah, and also in general, the system provides support, expertise, training for farmers to tackle environmental challenges such as climate change. As you may know or may have read, some products are in danger because of climate change. So, for example, 90% of the areas where coffee is grown won't be suitable for coffee growing by 2050. And we have to support farmers to transition to different practices to keep living from their work and their cultures. Same applies for cocoa, or maybe you've heard of the Panama disease in the banana industry, which is a disease that affects the banana plantations. So this is all these are all consequences of the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis that we are facing. And we, as a system, we are providing support and training and different initiatives to tackle those challenges. And the third pillar is the social pillar. I talked earlier about the hired labor standard. So this is the standard for plantations like the tea or flower plantations and banana plantations in some areas. And in this case, the social criteria are really about respecting the International Labour Organization standards, the ILO standards for workers, so the right to collective bargaining and the right to a decent salary, and the right to a maternity leave and stuff like that, the right to get protection from work hazards. And those kind of stuff. There is also work done about gender equality, non-discrimination, the fight against harassment at work, etc. But also the social pillar means that we are supporting the social development of the communities, and this is mainly done through the Fairtrade premium, which I talked about a little bit earlier, and the way this premium is invested in the community development projects such as education, housing, medical facilities, etc. So really, Fairtrade is covering all the three main pillars of sustainability, and many more as you have seen in the video. Now let's come back home in Canada and see how we are as consumers and citizens supporting farmers and workers around the world through Fairtrade. So you might be surprised to see the numbers. The sales of Fairtrade products in Canada have been rising year after year. And these are the numbers of 2020, which was the first year of the COVID-19 crisis. And it has had various impacts on Fairtrade brands and companies here in Canada. But globally, it's been increasing the sales because people have become more aware of their consumption and the impact of the consumption in these very hard times. And so we are close to $700 million of sales, so of Fairtrade products in Canada. This is still a very small percentage of all the products that are bought and consumed in Canada, but this starting to have an impact. And from those sales, you can see the number, the money that has been generated in Fairtrade premium. So this small amount on top of the Fairtrade premium price. And it's been $7.6 million that's been sent back to producer organizations through those sales. This is huge. If you compare this amount to an international cooperation organization like I don't know, Development and Peace or Oxfam or UNICEF or others, this is an amount that is directly invested in community development projects with the Fairtrade farmers. So yeah, this money goes directly back to the producers. Nothing is taken from that at any stage. And on the shelves of our grocery stores, you can find more than almost 5,000 products, different products that are sold by 154 licensees, so companies that have the right to use the Fairtrade mark on the products. And these are the numbers at the end of 2020. The numbers today are much greater, and they will be updated in the next few weeks because we have our General Assembly in June. So the numbers for 2021 will be available in a few days. But still growing year after year. Quick explanation about the use of the Fairtrade mark and how to recognize Fairtrade products. So the main products you can find in Canada, the biggest market share is in coffee. Both packaged coffee in grocery stores and ready-to-drink coffee in coffee shops or restaurants, and it is recognizable with the black and the green and blue Fairtrade mark you see on the left. So this is this mark, and this mark means that all that can be Fairtrade in this product is Fairtrade. So of course, in a bag of coffee, it's 100% coffee. There is no other product, so it's all that can be Fairtrade. It's Fairtrade coffee. Fairtrade bananas, the same. You buy a hand of bananas. This is Fairtrade. If you buy a chocolate bar, this means that the cocoa and the sugar that are used in the chocolate bar are Fairtrade. But sometimes there are projects that can't achieve the threshold for the whole that can be certification. For example, a bouquet of flowers. The Fairtrade certification only applies to roses mainly. In Canada, we have Fairtrade roses that are coming from Ecuador or Colombia. There are also Fairtrade roses that are cultivated in Kenya, but mostly sold in Europe. But if there are a few roses in a bouquet of flowers, you can't say that the bouquet is Fairtrade, but there are Fairtrade flowers in this bouquet. So this is where the white mark that's on the right side of the picture applies. You can see this mark on more and more products because we have launched this what we call the Fairtrade sourcing program. For example, you might have seen these boxes of cereals called it's Kashi from Kellogg's, and in this cereals box, the cocoa is Fairtrade, but not the sugar. So there you can see they will have only the Fairtrade cocoa mark. So this means the cocoa of this product is Fairtrade, 100% of the cocoa is Fairtrade, but not all the ingredients that could be Fairtrade are in this product. But some composite products that might seem very complicated, like ice cream, can still have the all that can be marked, like Ben & Jerry's ice cream. There are tons of ingredients in that because, you know, the Ben & Jerry's recipes are very spectacular, but still they are sourcing the cocoa, the coffee, the sugar, the vanilla, anything that can be Fairtrade in the ice cream is Fairtrade. So the only thing that's not Fairtrade is the milk, basically, in a dairy Ben & Jerry's ice cream. So yeah, this is where you can find those different marks in the market. Sometimes on some products you will see the old transfer or Fairtrade logo, which is in black and white logo with a what's called the bucket boy, but this is the old Fairtrade label, and it is disappearing from the market. So yeah, this is the main and the mostly recognized Fairtrade label in Canada and in the world, actually. So here is an example of all the Fairtrade products you can find. And 20 years ago, where you were looking for Fairtrade products, it was in very specialized stores, or like organic stores, or small independent stores. But now it's really becoming mainstream. On the top left, this is Longo. So this is in Toronto. You don't have Longo stores in British Columbia, but this is the example of products you can find. So tea, cocoa, bananas, coffee, and some stores have even their own private brand, like the President's Choice organic coffee is Fairtrade. Or yeah, some like that have their own store brand that is also Fairtrade. So this is really becoming mainstream now, and this is new this month, May of 2022. You can mark this date like a historic date in the Fairtrade movement. Fairtrade bananas are available coast to coast in Canada, thanks to the commitment of Sobeys. They are carrying Fairtrade bananas, organic bananas, in all their stores all across Canada. So this is Sobeys, IGA, Safeway, Rachel Berry here in Quebec, Farm Boy in Ontario. So all those different stores are carrying Fairtrade bananas now, and there is more to come. There are other big banners, grocery stores have reached out to Fairtrade Canada to get Fairtrade bananas from their suppliers. So yeah, this is a great achievement. We've been waiting for that for a long time. Fairtrade bananas were only available in mostly Quebec, Ontario, and some parts of British Columbia for more than 10 years now, but never got to be available like coast to coast and in the larger banners. This is now something done. There are Fairtrade bananas now also in all Costco stores in the Greater Toronto area. So this is a pilot project Costco is having, but we are hoping that this is going to be implemented all across Canada and maybe North America. Because this is a huge success in Toronto at the moment. So yeah, very big impact on bananas. But yeah, the main commodities you can find with the Fairtrade standards now in Canada are, of course, coffee, bananas, and cocoa, so chocolate and all cocoa-based products. But still, there are a lot of tea available, tea brands available. And there are other non-expected products like Fairtrade Gold. This is my wedding band, and this is made of Fairtrade Gold. There are two jewelers in Canada that use Fairtrade Gold. It is very difficult to source because there are only a few mines in the world that are certified under the Fairtrade standard for gold. And with all the supply chain challenges we're having, it's not always easy to have this available. But there are also Fairtrade soccer balls. There is a brand in British Columbia called Volo Athletics that's distributing soccer balls from Pakistan that are made under the Fairtrade labor standard. Fairtrade cotton is becoming more and more available as well. You might know the brand Ten Tree. They have a line of organic Fairtrade cotton t-shirts, but there are also bed sheets and towels made from Fairtrade cotton from a brand called Tricasa that are available as well in Canada. So various brands are available with Fairtrade, the Fairtrade label, and various products available with the Fairtrade label. I will finish by talking about what you can do as consumers. So of course, buying Fairtrade products, but also keep being informed. This month, May is Fairtrade month in Canada. We have a huge campaign on internet and social media with the hashtag It's Only Fair. There are giveaways, webinars, a lot of stuff happening on the internet, on Instagram and Facebook. You can check. Last Saturday, May 14th, was World Fairtrade Day, and this is why we chose to have this webinar this week, because it's in line with this big celebration around the world. So you can find more info on fairtrade.ca and on our social media. And a last word about our campaigning and advocacy work. We are part of the Global International Fairtrade Towns movement, which was launched 20 years ago in the UK. And there are at the moment 26 Fairtrade towns in Canada. But we have also in this program that we are implementing in partnership with the Canadian Fairtrade Network, which is based in Vancouver, actually. We have also Fairtrade Campus, Fairtrade School, Fairtrade Events, Fairtrade Workplace, Space Group, and Ambassador programs. There are 47 Fairtrade campuses across Canada, universities and colleges, 26 Fairtrade schools, and every year a lot of events that are also Fairtrade designated under this program. And some businesses that are not selling Fairtrade products as a part of their core business, but still want to support the movement, are sourcing Fairtrade coffee for their employees, for example. So they are participating in the Fairtrade workplace movement. And over the past 16 years, almost 9 million Canadians have been engaged through those Fairtrade programs through 378 designations. And you can see our Prime Minister was in one of those events organized in a Fairtrade town in Quebec, actually, a few years ago, with this beautiful Fairtrade banana costume that anyone in the Fairtrade movement and who is like involved for a long time in the movement has worn at least one time. I have. So this is it for my presentation, and I will happily answer your questions now.